Hi guys, in this video tutorial I'll show you guys how to set up the Raspberry Pi board for the first time. So my Raspberry Pi board over here is connected to a power adapter through the micro USB port. So if this is the first time that you have used a Raspberry Pi board, all the pins out over there some of them are GPIO, which stands for general purpose input output. Some of them are 5 volt pin out, 3.3 volt pin out. Some of them are ground, and etc. They'll be useful in your future project where you can integrate with sensors, where you can integrate with actuator or LED, depending on your project. So they are really helpful for building your projects. So this cable over here is called FTDI cable. It's a cable that we'll be using to connect our Raspberry Pi board to the computer. It allows the computer to communicate with the Raspberry Pi board. So this is how we'll be setting out the Raspberry Pi board. And the next one up is the SD card, which will be containing the operating system for the Raspberry Pi. So in the next part of the video tutorial, I'll show you guys how to set up the operating system into the SD card for the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so to format the SD card, you will need to remove the SD card from the Raspberry Pi and connect it to a SD card adapter. So the SD card adapter that I'm using is a USB type SD card adapter. You plug in your SD card in the SD card adapter, and the SD card adapter will be plugging into your computer or laptops. Okay, next one out will be formatting the SD card using a software called SD card formatter software. Okay, so after installing the SD formatter software, launch the SD formatter software. And over here you can see that I already have my SD card plugging into my computer using the SD card adapter, and it's showing up as at drive E. So using the software, make sure you select drive E. That way you know that you're formatting the right drive. So after that, selected the right drive, click format, and quick format will do the job. And this is just to ensure that the SD card is being formatted properly. After making sure our SD card is properly formatted back to its original capacity, we can move on to writing the operating system to the SD card. So in this step, we'll need to use a software called Win32 Disk Imager. Okay, now after installing the Win32 Disk Imager, launch the software. For this software, make sure you right click and run as admin. But what you need to do next is to locate the operating system image. So in my case, I save it in a USB drive. So over here, this is a custom Raspberry Pi image. So make sure that the image has been extracted. So over here, having a look at the file extension is the IMG, the image file extension. So open it. So after locating the operating system image, make sure we have the right drive selected. After that, you just need to click right to write the operating system to the SD card. It's just checking that if you have selected the right drive, click yes, and then this is going to start writing the operating system. When it hits 100%, the operating system would have successfully written to the SD card. After the process is completed, we can remove the SD card from your computer. make sure you eject it safely. Okay, so the next step would be setting up a Raspberry Pi using the putty software and the FTDI cable. So what you need to do is insert the SD card back to the Raspberry Pi, and next step will be plugging the FTDI cable into your computer or laptop's USB port. After plugging in the FTDI cable into your computer, you will need to identify which COM port is being assigned to. So open up Device Manager on your computer. Okay, so what you will need to do is under Device Manager, open up port which specified COM and LPT, and you can see that USB 0 port, which will be our FTDI cable, is assigned to COM 6. So what we will need to do next is open up the putty.exe. You don't have to install it, it just launches automatically. So go to the 0 option, and what you need to do is change COM1 to COM6 because by default it comes as COM1. And what you need to do next is change the serial communication speed to 115/200. That's the speed that you need to specify when doing a serial connection with the Raspberry Pi. So what you do next is open it. Okay, you'll see a black blank terminal. Nothing's going to show up yet. That's completely normal. So what we will need to do next is power out the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so turning on the Raspberry Pi power adapter, and for the first time setting out the Raspberry Pi, you'll see a lot of messages will be printing out on the putty serial terminal. So now the Raspberry Pi is booting up, and all the message is being sent through the serial connection through the FTDI cable. Okay, so after the Raspberry Pi has finished booting, we will need to log in to the operating system. So for the Raspberry Pi, the login that you will want to use is Pi, and the default password is Raspberry. And it's normal that when you type in the password, it's not going to show up on the terminal. So there you go. Now we have logged into the Raspberry Pi operating system, and the Raspberry Pi has been successfully set up. And thank you for watching this video tutorial.